Hello and welcome to another episode of Hindsight is Horrifying, the show where usually we look back on the movies and TV shows of our youth and do whatever it is we do with them. But this week we're doing something a little bit different. This week, I, Jason Mitchell, am here with my co-host, Darth Jader, and our very special guest co-host.
Repeat guest co-host now.
Yeah, we've only had one other. Have we had a repeat?
Yeah, Katie's
that's right. Katie was there twice. Adam Brown, who, as all of you who listened to our seminal episode on Death Race 2000 will know, these are both people who I have been directing in the local Act One theater, Alpharetta, whatever it's called, production of Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. And tonight, we're going to be doing something a little different. We're going to try to bring a bit of that play to you, to the audience. So the format's going to be different tonight.
Especially since some of you are so far away in Australia.
Yeah, I mean, you guys could have made an effort to come, but whatever.
We're not mad.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we are going to talk a little bit, because we do look, on the show, we talk about how movies are made. We talk about the writing. We talk about the characters, things like that. We always do it very tongue-in-cheek, and this will be too, but we're going to talk tonight a little bit about how, as actors, they bring these characters to life. And we're going to get some samples of some scenes from the play.
If you're lucky.
So.
Oh, those be lucky. They're getting lucky tonight. That's for sure.
Well, that's Shakespeare.
It's going to be that kind of an episode again, isn't it?
That's Shakespeare for you. There's rape, there's murder, there's
slut-shaming.
Oh, yeah.
Big time slut-shaming.
Well, so, okay, I want to, for those of you who don't know, Darth, you play Beatrice.
Yes, I do.
And Adam, you play Benedict.
Benedict.
Nice. You got the pronunciation.
Not Benedict.
Benecool?
Yeah.
No, Benedict.
Yeah.
That joke never gets old.
Does the fun ever start?
Did you see I put it in the episode description?
Yes, I did. Very good.
So my question, first and foremost, is who are these two people? I mean, they're obviously they're at the center of the play. So if I'm a prospective audience member, or if I'm just somebody who wants to, read some Shakespeare, why would I want to watch or read about Beatrice and Benedict? And I'll throw it to whichever one of you wants to respond to that.
I'll start. It's interesting. The more I've gotten into the characters, and the more I read the play, and the more I performed in this show, the more I began to see similarities in certain things of my own particular youth that occurred. And it's really interesting because the play starts off where Beatrice and Benedict are just at odds with one another.
Oh, yes.
The hate is palpable. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why is it that way? And I'll tell you, I remember as a young lad in high school where there were particular women that I really, really liked, but I would hide it in witty retorts and comebacks that almost became adversarial.
Well, it's sort of the, you pull the hair of the girl you like.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Well, that's why girls grow up with their mothers telling them, oh, if a boy is mean to you, that just really means he likes you. So that was something that really came to mind when I was workshopping with you to be Beatrice, because and it's like they say, there's a fine line between love and hate. Usually indifference is what really marks the fact that you don't care about somebody, they can't affect you, but you're right, we actually do start kind of hating each other in the beginning of the show.
And I sincerely think that we were an item.
Oh yeah, we talked about that at one of our workshops, because it to me, it gives me the feel that maybe we were together when we were young, we fell in love, and maybe like first love, where it's the most intense kind, and that's why Beatrice and Benedict both, they've got a witty remark or comeback for just about anything anyone else on the planet can throw at them. But the two of them are the only ones that can really get under each other's skin and bother each other.
Well, as actors, when you're preparing for these roles, do you have a process, or how did you get to know these characters?
Well, I'll start. It's interesting because one of the exercises that you wanted us to go through is to have coffee with the character.
Right. Yeah.
just think to ourselves, we're having coffee. Well, I didn't need to have coffee because I'll tell you, in many ways, I am Benedict. Benedict.
I can see it.
Yeah. And, I've just had those situations in my life where I'd been cruel or mean to a girl or a woman that I really, really, really liked. And, of course, in real life, nothing ever came to fruition. And I have serious regrets
Poor
over
Adam.
that. Luckily, Benedict is able to turn it around at the end.
Well, isn't that the great thing about Shakespeare? Here he is writing 400 years ago, and the themes are just as good, just as valid today.
Yeah, they still apply today.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something that I found. I'll agree with you on that, Adam. I actually see parts of myself in Beatrice because that was one of the things that I knew when I was younger, like you were saying in high school. One of the reasons why boys would even like me in the first place is because I would shoot their insults and their nonsense right back to them. I could actually hang. Unlike some girls who would just be like, "You're mean," or they would cry or get upset, and I would just be like, "Oh, okay, we're doing this? All right." And I don't know, it was kind of fun, almost banter-like.
Well, there's nothing more attractive than someone that can meet or exceed your wit.
Yeah.
Oh,
and push back.
Well, yeah, and I've said that to going as far back as in high school, talking to girls who were why don't guys like me? And men really do like strong women.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
You bet we do.
The wilting daisy image is it's not something that might be appealing at a certain stage in your life, but we all know that the wilting daisy, especially when you get to be our age, wilting daisies are going to be a pain in the ass because you're always going to be having to take the wilted daisy and straighten it back up again.
Yeah, they're almost like dead weight, and you just, especially when it comes to being together for a longer period of time, because back in high school, the wilting daisy thing could work for a lot of guys because you're not typically going to stay with the girl in high school very long. Like, the relationships are kind of short-lived.
Well, so. and you can kind of contrast Benedict to somebody like Romeo, because Romeo is a kid.
Yeah, idiot kid.
He's an idiot. He's a young idiot kid.
I think you're 14 and you're an idiot.
Yeah, and whereas Benedict has been to war, he's fought, he's loved, he's hated, he's done all this stuff, and he's a man. And you could not pair, say, Hero with Benedict. It would never work. Never work. It'd be a complete failure. So, okay. So when you're trying to, when you're on stage, because, there is a lot of interpretation that can be had with any of Shakespeare's plays. You can do dark, you can do light. When you see the relationship between Benedict and Beatrice, is it a lighthearted thing, or is it a serious, they have issues sort of thing? Where do you go with that?
I don't know. The way I see it is going back to what Adam and I were saying, how it appears that we might have been an item when we were younger. I think it's more serious than they would like people to think it is, which is why they have that banter and that back and forth, and they're trying to make it look more lighthearted than it really is to both of them.
Right.
And they're trying to hide that from each other.
Well, let's talk about a specific scene. I don't know if the two of you have talked about a specific scene that you wanted to discuss. Do you have anything in mind?
Nothing in particular.
Okay, good.
Lean on you, Jason.
The first, early on, we have the scene where Benedict and Beatrice meet again after a certain amount of time. We don't know how long.
Yeah, he's been off at war. She's been back home, and they've been separated for a while. And
it's very vague. I mean, they might have been gone for a few years. They might have been gone for a few months. Who knows? But they get back together, and Benedict enters the scene in his usual wisecracking, snarky way, only to discover that his lady disdain is still alive and is lurking. Do you yet live? as David Tennant said it. So I'd like to talk about that scene. You two did it as a sort of a Hepburn and Tracy sort of, it was light, it was tit for tat, that sort of thing. But it was fun and it was light. Could it have been something different if you had wanted to? Could you have taken it, more absurd? Could you have taken it darker, more serious?
I could definitely have taken it more seriously, because one of the things that I looked at when we were just doing this play is, as much as they don't want to admit it, Benedict and Beatrice are obsessed with each other, because she starts the show out talking about him.
Right.
When she finds out all the soldiers have come back from war, he's the first thing she asks about.
Yeah, the first thing she thinks of.
Yeah, her first line is asking, Senor Montalto returned from the wars? Yeah. And it just, then she proceeds to sort of make fun of him behind his back. So it definitely could have gone darker, because you get the feeling that she's a little bit bitter about however their initial relationship ended.
Could you have played them as people who were both damaged?
What do you mean by damaged?
Well,
everyone's damaged in some way, shape, or form, and I know Benedict, of course, is.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
and Beatrice is too.
Agreed.
But could you have? Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we actually go into a scene, if you would indulge me?
Absolutely.
Sure thing.
And let's just do Act 1, Scene 1, and we can start with I think the first thing that, what is the first thing Beatrice says?
I wonder that you will still be talking.
Well, why don't I lead in where I don't know she's there
yet? Right.
And I'm having fun.
Right.
Making a joke, thinking I'm on top of the world, until guess who shows up?
Okay, so everybody, this is a segment of Act 1, Scene 1 of Much Ado About Nothing.
If Signor Leonato were her father, she would not have his head on her shoulders for all of Messina, as like him as she is.
I wonder that you will still be talking, Signor Benedict. Nobody marks you.
What, my dear Lady Disdain, are you yet living?
Oh, is it possible Disdain should die while she hath such meat food defeated as Signor Benedict? Courtesy itself must come to Disdain if you come in her presence.
Why, then is courtesy a turncoat? But it is certain I am loved of all ladies, only you excepted. And I would I could find in my heart that I had not a hard heart, for truly I loved none.
Oh, and a dear happiness to women, else they should be troubled with a pernicious suitor. I thank God and my cold blood I'm of your humor for that. I would rather hear my dog bark at a crow than hear that a man swear he loves me.
Well, God keep your ladyship still in that mind, so some gentleman or other shall scape a predestinate scratched face.
Oh, and scratching could not make it worse, and 'twere such a face as yours were.
Why, you are a rare parrot teacher.
Bird of my tongue is better than a beast of yours.
I would my horse had the speed of your tongue and so good a continuer, but keep your way, in God's name I have done.
Ooh, you always end with a jade's trick. I know you of old.
And that last line, I know you of old.
That's a big one, yes.
Mm-hmm. That says a lot about their relationship. This that happened has happened. We're just
many
witnessing something
before.
That has happened so many times.
And she's basically calling him out for opting out of their arguments.
Yeah.
And that's where I think there is a lightheartedness to it, because deep down I think they both enjoy the back and forth.
I think, yeah.
And I was just going to add, it was interesting when I originally took the character, I thought, he's a guy who is the most witty person in the world, and nobody can top Benedict. But the more I began to read through it, the deeper I got into the character, the more I realized that he was bested every single time by Beatrice.
Yeah.
Especially at the party scene.
Oh my gosh, I thought I had her. I had her at the party, because she didn't know who I was.
Oh, she got so under his skin in the party scene. Absolutely. And
I could do nothing about it. I was a prisoner in my mask, as she's just ripping me a new one right there on stage.
Yeah, you were trapped in a hell of your own making, because you set that up thinking that you had one over on me, and I figure it out.
Well, and if you think about it, he could have just taken his mask off. He could have taken his mask off and said, "What the hell are you talking about?"
No, but then she wins even more, because he can't stand to be insulted. Like, I don't know. I think she would have won the battle even harder in that case.
Yeah, I think so. And is Don Pedro the only reason that this time it's different? I would argue that it's not.
I'm not sure I understand where you're
Well, think about it. Okay, so they have matched wits. There's a merry war betwixt them. You know, they're constantly bickering and they're doing all this stuff. And we know that at the end of the play, they're going to end up madly in love with each other.
Yeah, but
we
at the moment...
So. Yeah, we never know. It's Shakespeare. I might drive a stake through her heart.
That's true.
What am I, a vampire? Doesn't matter to the stake.
Whoa!
Oh
nice.
No.
Yes.
But... yeah, and I mean, Don Pedro is kind of ultimately the master manipulator because he sits there telling the entire court, you know what? Those two, despite their sniping, those two are perfect for each other. I'm going to make sure they get together. So, yeah, I mean, his machinations really, I think they make a big difference.
Well, there's so many ways you can interpret it, different aspects of the play. One way that I was looking at it is, Don Pedro and Benedict, they've been out together for a long time. They've seen things. They've been fighting. They've probably had some pretty deep conversations. It almost makes me wonder if Don Pedro has already heard a confession from Benedict. Maybe he was drunk and he actually said, you know, I really do love her. Don Pedro comes in and he does, I'm gonna undertake one of Hercules' labors.
Mm-hmm.
And I will join them in a mountain of affection or whatever he says. And then as the audience, we think, okay, well, Don Pedro does this harebrained scheme. And
which is funny considering he proposes to me in the show.
Yeah.
So, but you get the feeling he's kind of the quagmire. He'll go after just about any lady that's within his proximity.
I think so. Or, see, but you can interpret it a bunch. You could say, maybe Don Pedro thought, well, Benedict does love her, but I know she doesn't love him. So they're not going to end up together. So I'll make a move on Beatrice, you know.
Right.
I mean, you could imagine a prequel to Much Ado About Nothing in 1,000 different directions.
Yeah.
But maybe there's a reason why Benedict and Beatrice fall for this absurd plan so easily.
Because they both want to. It just...
yeah. And maybe that's why Don Pedro suggested it in the first place, was because he already knew.
Well, you know, it's interesting. And this is how I also map it back to my life. I was in the Navy. I traveled a lot. And a lot of my friends got married very early, right out of college.
Fools.
I'll plead the fifth on that. It's a personal thing. Oh, I see you have your finger on the button there, just in case I say
the eject button.
But many of my friends got married early, and then I was still single. And when your friends fall, you find yourself connecting with a younger demographic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that layer goes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing you know, you're like this, I'm not going to say middle-aged, but an older, more mature gentleman hanging around with all these chippies.
Mature.
Yes.
Mature.
Chippies.
These young early 20-somethings, and it's just like, why is that
Ooh.
guy with him? Because he is trying to extend his youth for as long as possible.
Yeah.
But you eventually get to a point where this is just not working anymore. A man loves the meat in his youth, but he just cannot endure it in his age.
Exactly.
Not what you were thinking. Okay, it's a different meat.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's where
that tends to be a lifelong thing.
Oh, dear God.
But
off and running, fellas, off and running. All right.
And I truly think, Benedict, he was squeezing everything out of that life, that lemon, that Claudio, right? And then when Claudio fell, it's, what am I going to do now?
Right.
It's almost like he betrayed you in a way.
I was very upset about that. He was my last bud that we would go out partying with. And now he's going to marry another woman and leave me by myself.
And clearly he's had many friends who have done this because Beatrice says in the beginning, who is it? I don't remember the line.
He has every month a new sworn brother.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a step process.
Well, and see, that's the thing is she's got a really good beat on him. She knows exactly who he is.
Oh, she knows him.
It's kind of exactly what Adam was just saying. Beatrice understands all of that about him already.
Yeah.
And she knows that he's got a new friend every month because maybe they're dropping off and getting married. But Beatrice is kind of similar in this, even though the not getting married, the stakes are much higher for her.
Yes.
Back then, at least, because there's no You know, like today, if I chose never to get married, that's fine. I can go buy a house, buy a car, have a job, whatever. But she doesn't have those kinds of options.
No.
She's going to wind up a nun or just leading some sort of solitary life. But she's still sitting there railing against the idea of having a husband.
And she is not the heir to anything.
No.
As far as we know, she's not the heir to anything.
No, Leonardo's responsible for her. But I think that's what she said on our last episode, because Benedict becomes her financier.
Yeah, her financier.
Yeah, it's like, this is your financial burden now, Benedict.
Yeah, well, and of course, you know, there's a specific moment later in the play whenever Leonardo is talking to Claudio, and he's telling Claudio, you know, well, you couldn't be my son-in-law, but you can be my nephew. My brother has a niece that is, you know, the like of Hero, blah, 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 and is heir to every...
The sole
heir to me and my... You know, like, I've got to throw that in there.
Right. Well, because, money was important.
Yeah, it's money part of the calculus. Yes. You know, there's no... I mean, and that's a theme that comes up a lot, you know, in Shakespeare. There's sort of a flipped version of it in Hamlet when Ophelia is told by her father, Polonius, basically... no, Polonius didn't say it. I think Laertes said it to her. Where it's basically, look, you can't be in love with Hamlet. You have to bear in mind, he can't just marry whoever he wants.
Yeah, he has a financial obligation to marry somebody
and
who
there's
means
a stature.
as well.
Yeah.
There's a stature.
Exactly.
They have to be on similar levels.
Right. So he might fall in love with you, but that's not going to be enough. You know? And it's a very interesting window.
Well, that was tough on us last year, having to explain to the younger lady who played Ophelia. She just, we think she was having trouble grasping Ophelia's despair after Hamlet hit it and quit it, essentially, and she just was not getting that. She would
well, he didn't quit it. No, she told him to go away because Polonius told her.
That's right.
Yeah, Polonius said, you've got to tell him you're not interested, and she did.
Yeah, but she's still ruined. Like,
yeah.
So we were trying to convey.
Don't make Hamlet out like he's
all right. Fair enough.
On, man.
He's whiny. I'll leave it at that. Well, but
unless he's Mel Gibson. Then he's not as whiny.
Then he's more stabby than whiny.
Yeah. But Mel Gibson did one thing I love about the Kenneth Branagh version of Hamlet is that they didn't do the whole did he have sex with his mom thing, because I've read Hamlet probably 20 times and I have never once read that and thought, oh, obviously he's having sex with his mom in the scene.
Yeah, that never really.
It's nowhere in the play anywhere, but every single, even the Mel Gibson one, they did it.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, guys, you're giving Shakespeare a bad name. And, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio already did enough of that.
Very much so. Ouch.
Shots fired.
Yeah.
I hate Romeo and Juliet. I love Shakespeare, but I hate Romeo and Juliet. It's the worst thing he ever wrote.
One of the board members, Melody, from Act 1, actually posted something on social media, so I know neither of you saw it. It was a coffee shop that had one of those little chalk signs outside of their shop, and it said, Romeo and Juliet are not a great love story. They're a 17 and 13-year-old who fell in love with each other over the course of less than a week. Mm-hmm. Sincerely, everyone who actually read the play.
Yeah. And then died.
Yeah, and died.
Oh, yeah.
So
died.
Can't forget that aspect of the story.
In a very sick and twisted way.
Yeah.
Well, and listeners, Jason has a pretty awesome joke that he told in front of our play the other night where he said, this is one of the least murdery plays that Shakespeare ever wrote.
Yes.
I was going to also say the least rapey, but I didn't know if the audience would
There were children in the
yeah.
audience. And there are children in the play, so we probably not go there.
But there's very little death and rape.
I mean,
it is really much ado about nothing.
It's a lighthearted show.
It's a soap opera.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It really is, and it's so impressive that Shakespeare can write a play that is light and airy and fun,
and then turn around and cook people into pies.
Well, yeah. No, but in the same play, though, you still get these incredibly emotional moments.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the scene with Beatrice and Benedict in the church after Hero is falsely accused.
That one's a doozy.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably, in my opinion, it's their best scene. It's probably, from a literary standpoint, I think it's the best scene. From a play standpoint, it's the second best scene because I love the party sequence.
Yeah, I know you like the party.
I adore the party sequence.
He likes me watching hand Adam's ass to him during the party scene.
I know. And I just have to sit there and take it like a man.
Yeah, yeah. But then you resolve. Then you get that great speech afterwards.
Well, and the part is she comes out behind me when I'm
yes.
It's
verbally abusing her, right, left, top and bottom, forward and aft. And I hear the audience laughing. I'm thinking to myself, I'm not saying anything funny, and then I got to remember she's behind me, and they're like, "Oh my God, he's gonna get it! Oh boy, is he gonna get it!"
I think Benedict. My favorite thing that Benedict says is the lines immediately after he sees that Beatrice.
I would fetch you the.
I love that. I love that. So it's just
literally send me to the ends of the earth to get me the hell away from this woman.
It is pure Shakespeare, and it's funny, and it's something that you could use in a movie today.
Oh yeah,
but it wouldn't have the same punch because you couldn't say a thing like fetch you. Well, what is it? What is it?
Will your grace command me any service to the world's end? And I'll tell you how I remember that line: will and grace. Will your grace command me any service to the world's end? I was wondering if the show was named after that line. I don't know.
I wonder.
That's a good question.
Will and grace.
That's a very, very good question.
Command me any service to the world's end.
Interesting.
I will do you any service to the antipodes now that you would command to send me on, etc. etc.
None.
And meanwhile,
none but to desire your good company.
Oh God, sir, that is a dish I love not. I cannot endure my lady tongue. And she's got a tongue on her.
Well, yeah, and what's great too in that scene is that you, Beatrice, have no lines there, but you were able to give so much characterization in the silent acting.
Well, the fan helped.
Well, yeah, the fan helped, but there was the whole time, and that's another thing about Shakespeare is there's so much that's not written in the text,
Well, that's where you can have fun with it, honestly.
Yes, there's some amazing business in this show. I tell you.
Yeah.
And as we became more comfortable with our characters and we began to add the little naughty bits, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
It was good. Oh, my gosh.
What was your take? I know you had an interesting take on the part where Beatrice was... Well, in the play, Beatrice is sent to summon you into dinner.
Oh, yes. That was so great.
But we made a change. We changed that to breakfast, and we made it the next day, and Benedict was hungover. But you had an interesting take on Beatrice's whole bidding you to come into breakfast.
Would we like to give a little context of that scene and read it?
Yeah, let's read it. They don't have to read it. They're not looking at their scripts.
It's burned into my brain forever.
Yeah, I have the scripts in front of me. Because I'm just the director. I don't remember any of this stuff. But they know it, which is an amazing accomplishment, by the way. The fact that you two were able to memorize, and I actually counted, you both have 728 million lines.
Oh my God.
That's the exact number.
Yeah, that's the exact number.
That's insane. And
I absolutely am baffled at how you were both able to remember these lines.
Well, what haven't we discussed with each other regarding these characters? That's another thing we talked about with our process. Apparently, it's pretty similar in the sense that we kind of start from the beginning and build on and build on and build on until we're through the entire play. That's how I see it as kind of like building blocks, because I notice you won't let yourself get through a scene unless you have all the lines. Like if you can't get all the way through, you go until you're a quarter of the way through, and then halfway through, and then 3/4 of the way through. So, and I'm pretty similar in that sense. And hearing other people speak helps me as well, because I'm a very auditory person.
I am very curious, and I never asked either of you this. I mean, what was your process away from everybody as far as learning the lines? I mean, did you run the lines with people? Did you?
No, there's nobody that would have the
you don't have friends
fortitude to do that with me, and that's why when you hear the people, I didn't have someone to run it with, so I can't learn the lines. It's like, none of us did.
Right.
Yeah.
It takes energy, it takes effort, it takes a lot of work. Particularly since it's not our day job, right? We have have other jobs,
and it's not like memorizing something that was written today.
No.
Because you can't just go, if you're memorizing a play that was written in 2019, as long as you know about what the character was saying, you can muddle your way through it. You can't do that with Shakespeare.
Yeah, it's hard to just, I don't know. My dogs were very avid listeners, I can tell you that. But yeah, it's hard to just sort of summarize a Shakespearean line. You really do need to get the words down. And
right.
I'll still transpose some of my lines a little bit. Like I'll say one line ahead of another if I'm just not in the zone. But
that's the stuff that nobody in the audience would ever notice.
Yeah,
thankfully. Of course, my background is in nuclear and chemical engineering, and I'm a project manager. So
naturally, you're in a Shakespeare show.
It's a natural transgression.
I think Derek Jacobi was also.
That's right. That's right. I met him in one of my classes.
Sir Patrick Stewart. I mean, he used to fly a spaceship, so that's kind of the same thing.
But I know that Jade was a little amazed because I had a sheet of paper with all of my lines on it.
Oh my God, this was amazing.
And I counted all the lines, the number of lines, and I broke it down into how much I had to learn every single day to make it to the end of it.
You had
to make sure I was off book.
The engineer's method.
Yes.
And you know what? Because I'm a big fan of engineers, it worked.
It did. And the reason is I knew it was a lot of lines, and I didn't want to be caught at like a week before the show saying, I've only got half of them learned, and there's just no way. If I stayed up 24 hours, there's no way I'd be able to learn them all. So I had to break it down into little pieces. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because the family was asleep, and I would literally be with my script pacing in my office back and forth, running the line over and over. And it would just be the same line, and I'd have to say it over and over. And what happens is the more times you repeat it, it just begins to sink into your subconscious.
Right. Well, I talked to an actor once and said it's like remembering a new phone number. He said if you move to a different city or whatever and you get a new phone, and this is, he was an older guy, so it was before cell phones. He said you get a new phone number and you've gone years. Somebody asks you what's your phone number and you just spit it out.
Right, without even thinking.
You don't even think about it, and you get a new phone number, and all of a sudden you realize, wait, it's got numbers. Starts with a 4.
See, for me, that's like aging. Like, you age a year, and people are like, how old are you? And I'm like, oh, 29? No, wait a minute. Hold on.
Yeah.
How old am I? And you just don't really think about it.
29. I like that. That's a good age.
Start celebrating. This is my first anniversary of my 40th birthday.
You said that the week you turned 40? That's such a mom thing to say, Jason.
Well, but see, we've talked about this. I have sort of been looking forward to 40. I actually, because one of the things that happened before the play was I found out that I'd cracked my patella.
Yes.
Yeah. And I went to the orthopedist.
It was painful just to read that text message.
Yeah.
Is that near your uvula by any chance? Where's your patella?
It's the bone. It's the bone that floats on top of your knee.
Got it. Okay. Why are you so red?
Oh, I'm burning up.
Oh, it is hot in here.
Yeah. Well, why don't you reach up there and
making me laugh.
Yeah, roll it back to like 65. This is some inside baseball stuff right now. This in the studio. We're live changing temperatures. Linda does it better.
Oh God!
I gotta take my shirt off.
No, don't do it.
Yeah, it might be red because you guys are talking about some relatively inappropriate fare.
Double entendres.
Relatively, but it's Shakespeare.
There are a lot of those in Shakespeare.
I mean, look. I remember.
I even have I've got a couple of good lines that are very double entendre.
You've got a lot.
Show.
My favorite is actually from Hamlet. Whenever Ophelia says something, and this is after Hamlet started to go off the rails, and he says, "Do you mean country matters?"
Ooh,
and I remember my teacher in college saying, and she said to us, she goes, "You're supposed to say cunt."
Matters.
Oh, yes. God.
Yeah, and that's Shakespeare, so I'm not bleeping that because that's Shakespeare.
That's right.
Fair enough.
And you added
I don't control the
after
bleeps.
Exactly. I mean, it's amazing to think if Shakespeare just said we could just say it all day long. It would be
considered Shakespearean.
It's Shakespearean.
That's not cursing, Mom. What?
If I go back in time, I'm going to go, Will, you got to just put
you slip one in.
At one point, just in this Titus Andronicus, just say yippee-ki-yay, mother.
Well, we forgot to incorporate a word that we agreed on. We were supposed to say squanch to each other at some point during the show. In honor of David Carradine.
Yes.
Are we back there already? We were going to go the whole episode without saying autoerotic asphyxiation.
I think so, yeah.
I didn't say it. I said squash.
I think, and I'll have to go back and listen to the tape of this episode, but I don't think so far I've said autoerotic asphyxiation.
You have not.
You haven't.
Yeah, I haven't.
That's why I had to break the ice.
Now both of the boys have said it, listeners, so it's very exciting. I'm not going to say it.
You're shaking, Darth.
No,
because I'm in a small room with two men talking about...
So there's a play.
Yes.
But I'll tell you, I'll add, there is another line that I use early on where I'm talking with Claudio, and he just thinks Hero is the cat's pajamas.
Oh, he instantly falls in love with her.
The dog's tuxedo.
Yes. And I say, and I talk about her cousin. And if she were not possessed with a fury, would exceeds her in beauty as much as the first of May, not the last of December, which is, wow, she is hot if she weren't such a flaming.
Well, see, and that's the thing. Yes. I think Benedict, most of the play, Benedict is making these, they're not Freudian slips, they're sort of Shakespearean slips.
Yes. Yeah.
Where he's really, I mean, if you do the whole subsequent viewing thing, you will realize he's kind of putting his cards on the table pretty early on.
Well, she does too. When she's it's right before the party scene where she's speaking to her uncle and Hero, and she's sitting on the couch. And like, I think I mentioned it on one of our previous podcast episodes, is that when they're not around each other, they're still talking about each other throughout the entire show. They
both have rented space in each other's heads.
Exactly. Yeah. Like one of her lines is talking about, an excellent man would be somebody like Benedict if he didn't talk so much. So they're both talking about each other constantly or sniping at each other when they're together.
And it all, I think, comes down to Benedict's line, we are too wise to woo peaceably.
To squanch peaceably.
Yeah. We are too wise to, and that was me trying to put us on an equal bearing, whereas she, once again, always gets the best of me.
Yeah, she does.
It's fun.
It is good.
Did either of you, at any point when you were, after you'd been cast, did you watch any of the movies, or did you see anybody's interpretation of these characters?
I didn't want to this close to the play because, like I said, I'm very auditory, so if I hear Emma Thompson do a Beatrice line a specific way and I think it's great, I'm probably just going to end up mimicking that. So I wanted it to be totally me. I didn't want there to be any sort of copying going on. So no, I saw the Kenneth Branagh version many moons ago when it came out in the 90s, but I haven't watched it recently.
I had seen the Kenneth Branagh version, and when I saw that movie, I said, I want to play Benedict.
Well, there you go.
And that was in 1994.
And it
took a while.
Yeah, and it's a great. And you didn't recall the movie because I said something to you after our first performance because I was in the same...
I haven't seen it in a very long time.
Well, I didn't watch it at all. I was tempted to watch it many times when we were rehearsing. But it's sort of the same thing. I didn't want to be, contaminated by the movie and, sort of subconsciously try to do it like Kenneth Branagh.
Exactly.
But I will say, the church scene that you two did, when I went and I finally did sit...
Oh, the chair.
It was so incredibly close to the Kenneth Branagh, Emma Thompson church scene. And they were in a little chapel. Right down to the chair flip. I mean, at the same moment, the same cue. Exactly. And, we should, I should mention, by the way, if you want to watch this, we have
a link, and I'll put it in this episode description.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to read. It's theateralpharetta.com. That's where it's living right now.
It's its current residence.
Yeah, it's on YouTube also, but the easiest way to find it is to go to Theater Alpharetta, and Darth will put it in the show notes. But yeah, it was very impressive. You two essentially came up on your own with what Emma Thompson and the man who is arguably the standard bearer of Shakespeare.
Right. Absolutely.
One of my favorite bits that Rowan Atkinson ever did was in the I don't know if you guys ever watched Blackadder.
I was aware of Blackadder. I have not seen Blackadder.
Great show. He did. Mm-hmm. They did a special after the show went off the air. They did a special where Blackadder basically went back in time and met all these famous historical figures, and he meets Shakespeare and he runs into Shakespeare, and he's like, "Who are you?" And he goes, "I'm Kenneth Branagh." And Shakespeare says, "Who the hell is Kenneth Branagh?" and Blackadder says, "I'm going to tell him you said that when I see him."
That's magnificent.
That is fantastic.
But
Poor
no,
Kenneth Branagh.
but you both get. Well, I'm a huge Kenneth Branagh fan.
Gilderoy Lockhart from Harry Potter. For the younger listeners out there.
Yeah, what's Harry Potter? Oh, that's the thing at Universal.
Yes, the thing with the wizards and the wands and whatnot.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
It was a big deal a while back.
It was.
I think it still is.
Oh,
my
big
kids
time.
love it.
No, it's huge. Still.
It's not as big as it was. There are fewer grown. I remember when it
has
came.
its own Cards Against Humanity. I'd say it's faring pretty well.
No, I mean I'm not saying it's not big. It's just it's not quite the cultural phenomenon that it used to be.
Well, yeah, when the books were out, I mean, a trailer full of the books that Barnes and Noble was storing for the release date of the 5th book, Order of the Phoenix, was stolen.
You're kidding me.
No, somebody stole.
So somebody risked a lengthy jail sentence.
To steal the 5th book before it was released in bookstores.
See, I think that whole spirit, and I can see that. But that was completely burned out of me by The Phantom Menace. Because when the tickets went on sale for episode 1 of The Phantom Menace, my best friend and I, we literally spent the night at the movie theater with a group of people, a huge group of people. People were bringing furniture. There were couches and beds out there.
All that effort, and then you had to watch Phantom Menace.
And that is that is exactly why I instantly became a cynic the day we actually went in and saw the movie. As soon as Jar Jar showed up on screen, I became a cynic. That was it. All my youthful exuberance died that day.
I think Jar Jar Binks did that to a lot of people.
Yeah,
he did.
A lot of
but
people.
To be fair, and I always have to say this about Jar Jar, Ahmed Best, the actor who played him, we have nothing but love for you.
Yeah, you're awesome.
You're an awesome person.
Terrible.
Please get healthy, and
we know you're listening.
And please do not. Because he was suicidal. He was going to kill himself.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Oh, he was literally.
Because everyone hated Jar Jar Binks?
Because so many people were sending him personally death threats. These horrible idiots.
Well, that happens in Hollywood all the time.
Yeah.
When Jeffrey Dean Morgan took over as Negan in The Walking Dead,
right.
People were sending him death tweets and death letters and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, you if you ever send a death threat to an actor.
I love Negan.
Yeah, Negan's awesome.
He's an equalizer.
Look,
he's the way things should be run in a planet like that.
He's
right?
Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Antagonist. He changes things.
I became a fan of Jeffrey Dean Morgan in The Watchmen.
God, Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
In Watchmen.
I'm just going to zone out for a second.
Yeah, okay, there you go. She's off dreaming.
She's looking.
He is so incredibly perfect as the comedian in The Watchmen.
He nailed it.
Oh God, it's awesome, you know. But sending death threats to it. If you ever have the urge to send a death threat to an actor, just
I'm here to make the distinction for myself and Adam as well. We're not actually Beatrice and Benedict. Just so you guys know, we just play them in a show,
right?
Well, wait, speak for yourself.
Okay? Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah. I got a Benedict moment. And I told you.
He's gone super method.
I told you that, I was living at a certain time when, everyone was getting married. I kept ratcheting down. And what reminded me of this story was you were talking about Harry Potter. And I was dating, well, let's just say an age inappropriate woman. Considerably younger than me.
So age inappropriate meaning awesome?
Well, then you're pulling a Jeffrey Dean Morgan because his wife is something like 20 years younger than he is.
But it was funny because, the whole team was about the same age as her, and I was the more mature gentleman, but I was still cool, right? Because all of my friends got married. But then when we went...
You know about fax machines and hula hoops and whatever it was these kids were.
I knew. And so did her parents. And we were about the same age. And the funny thing was
I'm sure they were thrilled at this match.
She asked me, what are your intentions? I'm like, oh my God, okay, let's end this.
I mean nothing but honorable marriage for her.
I said, no, we're just having fun. This isn't going anywhere. But she used to call me
Which
Peter.
Women love to hear.
She used to call me Peter Pan, right? Because I was ageless. But then the odd thing is she was a big Harry Potter fan. And she said, hey, let's go back to my place, right? And I went back to her room, and it was decorated with a Tinkerbell motif.
You have no one to blame but yourself in this scenario.
The moment it was all pink, the pink bedspread, Tinkerbell toys, all Disney. And I walked in as a gentleman in, let's just say, his mid to late 30s. And I was like, okay, it's time to be a little bit more I got to, where's Beatrice?
Yeah,
I went and I tracked down Beatrice and I married her.
It's a bit Japanese, if I'm honest.
It was very anime.
Yeah. Well, that's sort of like the first time, and God, I can't believe I'm going to tell this story. The first time I ever actually, I was in high school. First time I ever saw boobs. Okay.
It always.
How did it devolve to this?
Well, actually, it was the second time. First, anyway, I was with this girl, and we went somewhere in a car, and we were, getting amorous.
Lover's Lane.
Yes. And she wanted to put on some music, and I thought, by all means.
Oh no.
And so she puts
Backstreet Boys.
No, God, I wish it was the Backstreet Boys.
Oh no.
She puts a CD in, and we are being amorous, and all of a sudden, this part of my brain sort of wakes up and goes,
"What am I listening to,
dude? I know there's boobs here, but seriously, just check out what's playing." She was playing "Welcome to Pooh Corner," the soundtrack.
Oh, I got a rumbling in my tummy just thinking about it.
And I'm Lord. Like, okay. You specifically asked to stop and put this CD in.
Gets me in the mood.
Yes.
Maybe it was a subliminal message.
I don't know.
Corner? Was there mean something that she's interested in?
Like she was the Pele of. I don't remember the word.
No, not on this episode.
I forgot the word. I don't know what it was.
Oh my god! I bet that put a little black rain cloud over your evening.
Well, no, surprisingly, I got past it pretty quick.
As a man will often do.
Jeez.
I just knuckled up and thought of Britain and
Margaret Thatcher naked on a cold day.
I want to steer back to the show for a minute.
Oh right, there's a show.
Just for a minute. And there is one scene where Beatrice and I, Benedict, are kind of laying out our souls and sharing how we really feel.
It's very tender.
It is wonderful, and in fact,
it's a very good scene.
It's amping up. It's amping up. It's amping up. Where she's telling me she loves me. I'm insisting. I tell her I love her. Then I give that not so subtle hint that by my sword thou lovest me. I'm telling her that she loves me, and she finally admits that she loves me. And then, I'm feeling a little amorous at the moment. I say, "Come, bid me do anything for thee."
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that she was going to ask me just to grab her boobs.
Yeah.
We're alone in the church. What better place?
So this is
to get a fondle.
He needs a wingman who was going, dude, don't. Dude, you ask your girl, she's going to tell you to go kill your best friend, man.
Oh, and then she turns and tells me to kill my best friend. It is a buzzkill.
Well, what's hilarious is the last show, we got laughs out of that
I know.
I couldn't believe it.
I couldn't either because it's like you said, Adam and I are very in the moment with that kind of love scene that's going on, and I'm confessing my love for him. He's confessing his love for me. And I'm looking him in the eyes, and then I turn, and my expression hardens, and I demand.
Let's do it now. Come, bid me, and I've just got a big smile on my face. Come, bid me do anything for thee.
Kill Claudio.
Yeah.
That's not what I was hoping for. I got to cross my legs now so I can stand up.
Yep.
Oh, wah, wah. Oh,
it's terrible.
Not for the wide, wide world of sports.
You kill me to deny it. Farewell.
And then it just goes south.
Yeah, it does.
Well,
really
chair flipping south.
It was interesting because I'm glad you guys said that because I noticed it too, that you got to laugh.
Yeah.
And I wondered when the audience laughed, is it an awkward laugh?
Well, I think they laughed for exactly the reason that Adam was just laying
Big
out.
eyes, I'm all excited, and then she tells me to kill my best friend. There's nothing funnier than that.
Yeah.
Because I think it was
rookie
just
mistake, man.
I think it was the gear shift in the moment though, because we go from making eyes at each other and holding hands, and we're very close, and then I demand that he murder somebody. Which is not usually what happens when you're confessing your love for someone else. So it's just...
Yeah, that only happens about 20% of the time.
I mean, I've only asked at least 2 guys to do it. So
yeah. I've been asked once, but, and I said I would, but then I didn't.
No follow through. That's always been your problem.
Will you sleep with me if I say I'm going to kill him?
Once that's done, then all deals off.
Then that asshole is dead.
Right.
Man, you fellas are very motivated.
Well, they never pay up until the deed is done. That's the problem, So you got to do it. You got to kill him.
That's because we know y'all's minds better than you think we do.
Many, so we say we are known. No, it's one of the things I like to think about with Shakespeare is that I like to think that he was thinking about similar things when he was writing it, and I
maybe his own personal experiences.
Well,
to your point before, styles change, times change, but human beings don't. It doesn't matter what language they're speaking. It doesn't matter the time frame. Men love women, women love men. And things are going to happen when they get together.
Oh yeah, I mean Shakespeare. One of the most valuable things about Shakespeare is that he gives this glimpse into, he gives obviously a glimpse into what was going on at the time, but he also has this way of capturing the fundamentals of what people are.
Oh yes,
In fact, there was years ago there was some. I don't know if they were a doctor of something, and they had this whole theory of that childhood itself didn't begin, the concept of childhood didn't begin until the Victorian era, meaning people really just viewed their children as labor sources and things like that.
Of course.
But the ultimate counterpoint to that was actually Shakespeare, because Shakespeare, and I think it was it's one of the King plays. I don't remember which one.
Okay.
But Shakespeare actually talks about, he has lines where he has a father talking about his son who died, his little boy who died.
Right. And
it's death wears his clothes. Death looks like him and walks up and down the halls and torments me. And Shakespeare by himself, and he didn't know he was doing it at the time, but that paragraph alone was enough to completely destroy this guy's premise, because it was like, no, childhood existed back then. People aren't different. We're the same as we are. People are people. My kid the other day, he said, why are basements so scary? And I said, well, it's easy. He said,
because of Home Alone.
Well,
the furnace in Home Alone.
I read an interesting fan theory about Home Alone. I'll get to that later.
Okay.
That the old man, the guy was actually a supernatural being who he was responsible for everything. Yeah, it's
That's deep.
But I told him, I said, look, thousands of years ago, when we were living in the wilderness, we would go into a cave, and a cave was scary because you didn't know what the hell lived there.
Right. Yeah. Could be a bear, snake.
Anything, yeah. And I said, that's why basements are scary. It's the same part of your brain that's just saying, well, I'm going into a cave.
Unknown,
yeah. People don't fundamentally change.
They don't.
Well, it's instinct. We are instinctive creatures. And face it, if women didn't have vaginas and we weren't attracted to it, we'd have nothing to do with one another.
Well, you and I had that discussion,
we did.
Jason, about how
we did.
Men would still be living in caves.
Yes.
And none of this, we wouldn't have housing, we wouldn't have we wouldn't have anything if it weren't for women.
Yeah, there's a huge thing to be said about the fact that women ultimately direct the course of civilization.
Hell yes, we do.
Well,
they absolutely
help men
do.
realize their full potential.
Yeah.
Because face it, we'd be just sitting around watching sports.
It
wasn't for women.
If it wasn't for women,
why killing each other?
Yeah. Look, you see any guy who's out there, like driving a Lamborghini and living in a big house, he's only doing that to get girls.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. Yeah, it's fun to drive it, but really,
oh gosh, no, yeah.
The reason
the cost, the maintenance,
you're doing it just to get girls,
especially if it's coated in velvet.
That was a Maserati.
I know.
I've told so many people that story.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Oh.
We had dinner the other night.
No, you told him.
Oh, I did tell you.
You did tell him. Oh, the velvet Maserati.
Yeah, I was going to
talk about death racing.
Darth and what do I call him? Grand Moff Tarkin or?
He doesn't have a Star Wars nickname.
No, I don't.
Okay.
But I have a funny story about buying a sports car. for midlife crisis. So I
for a woman much younger than yourself, I assume.
Well, I bought a Porsche, which I still have. It's a Boxster. And it was funny.
A Cockster?
It's with a B, as in Bravo.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, NATO phonetic alphabet. Get it together.
It's different. But it was the funniest thing. I was actually with my wife. She wasn't my wife at the time. And we're driving with the top down. And we're going through a neighborhood. And it must have been a 13-year-old girl with full headgear, maybe bouncing a ball or something. We're driving by. We have the top down. And she's like, "Hey, mister, nice car." And I'm like, that is why
That's why you bought it.
I bought it for that, and that was the only acknowledgement I got for all the money, time, and effort I spent on that.
Finally, somebody appreciated it.
Full headgear, and it was funny because she was talking like he's Mr. That's a nice car.
Well, but
my
to be
wife
fair,
just busted out laughing. It was hilarious.
But to be fair, though, the other people who were impressed by it were all the 13-year-old boys.
Yeah.
One day.
They wanted
you
to grow up
save your
to be
pennies,
you.
You can have this.
Yeah. I can finally start saving for my Porsche Cayenne.
Oh, Gene.
I hate the Cayenne.
Everybody with any sense does.
Yes, of course.
But yeah, so something about Shakespeare.
Were we talking about Shakespeare?
I was about to talk about Jaguars. Okay. All right.
Oh, goodness.
Our discussion got heady there for a moment.
Because we just got a new car.
What kind did you get? What'd you get?
The Velour. The Land Rover Velour.
Ooh,
It's not because it's got that special safety feature.
Wait, if you can't see out the back, is there a button you can push and the rearview mirror becomes a camera? I saw that in an ad today.
It's pretty awesome.
Wow.
The only problem is that most of the electrical things on it don't work.
Did you buy it used?
No, it's a lease. It's brand new.
Wow,
straight off the lot.
Work?
Straight, yeah.
That's good English technology right
no,
there.
No, my wife loves the fact that I keep telling her because, Land Rover's owned by Tata now.
They're owned by breasts? What?
Yeah,
I've never heard of
seriously.
Tata. What is a Tata?
It's an Indian car company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they make terrible cars and really good tractors.
Nice.
Excellent tractors.
Well, that's what you need to trade the Land Rover in for, the tractor.
So I kept telling her I'm going to get her a little Ganesh to put on the hood,
I love Ganesh.
Because I drive a Mercedes, and Mercedes never breaks down until it's got 60,000 miles on it. Then it breaks.
Yeah, then it breaks down something
But
fierce.
until then,
runs like a Swiss watch.
I may not have a fancy
a German
car,
V2 missile.
but it'll last me the next 15 years.
Shakespeare wouldn't have driven a Mercedes, I don't think.
He would have driven an MG.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, he would have had the top down.
Yeah, he was an artist.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, it was
cool
never a
artist.
rich man.
No.
No.
And this is not off topic, but it has nothing to do with the play.
Well, it's not like we've said anything off topic as
Yeah,
yet,
no.
so.
But do either of you, and feel free to say,
Mind your damn business.
shut up. Nobody wants to talk about this.
We're an open book to you, Jay.
Shakespeare.
Oh, speak for
JJ.
yourself.
Shakespeare. There is a theory.
I know where you're going with this.
The theory that Shakespeare was that there was not a single human being named William Shakespeare who
That
was
there's
responsible.
a collective.
Yeah, it's basically the
like a Monty Python.
Yeah, there's
of the 15th century.
the Stratford believers and the anti-Stratford believers.
Right.
And look, the anti-Stratford, Derek Jacobi.
I was going to say Derek Jacobi.
He's an anti-Stratford.
And
yeah.
who's the other guy that was in that espionage film with Tom Hanks, who did a great job? He played a Russian spy. Oh, I can't remember his name. It was the Over the Bridge or...
Oh, Bridge of Spies.
Bridge of Spies, yeah. He was fantastic. And as always, you watch a film, you're like, this guy's fantastic. Where has he been all my life? And he's been an East End performer and a Broadway performer for decades.
He's been playing the Kings of England.
Yes.
That's what he's been doing, yeah.
I remember when I saw the movie He Said, She Said. And this guy, Nathan Lane, he's hilarious. What took him so long? And he's like a Tony Award-winning actor.
Yeah. Patrick Stewart. I saw an interview with Patrick Stewart where he said, because he was Shakespearean his entire career.
Oh, yeah.
And then he plays, the captain of the USS Enterprise. And somebody said to him, isn't that a step down for you or something like that? And he said, I honestly feel like playing the Kings of England my entire career has prepared me to be Jean-Luc Picard. And if you watch TNG, that's one of the amazing things about that show. He acts like a Shakespearean It's like if Shakespeare had written Captain Picard, that's what it would have been.
Like.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But no, so do you have a position? Because I'll withhold my because I have an opinion.
Okay.
On the Stratford versus, I have an opinion on everything.
Everything.
So here's my thought. People did not get around back in the day as easily as we do today.
Correct.
And many of the details in these various Shakespearean plays are so specific that you had to be at that location to know that there was a certain arch and it had so many stones and there's a specific reference and it was Italy, Italy, England, Scotland, all these different places. So I don't
Denmark.
Denmark. Yeah. And so my thought is that there was a William Shakespeare. He was a real human being. But this team of writers got together and used his name as a pseudonym to market and perform the shows. I do not think that one individual could have written all those shows. And it was the Derek Jacobi interview regarding that really triggered my mind to go down that road. I believe that. So there's no way to prove it, of course, but that's my thought.
That's a much better theory than I have. I've always preferred to think that there's just one William Shakespeare.
That's where I land.
Because maybe travel wasn't a very big thing, but we had letters. Not text message where you're doing 140 characters at a time max. Actual letters that you send to, because like you said, Adam, people wouldn't travel much, so that's what they had to connect each other. So letters were much more in depth, and that's where he could have gotten that description in my mind, is if he has friends or family living in Italy and doesn't see them for years at a time, that's how they're communicating with each other. So maybe that's what painted the pictures for him for specific art.
Well, I wrote a novel and it was terrible. But the one thing that I can say that was good about it was that it was set in England. And it was set in a part of England that I hadn't been in before.
Did it have anything to do with detectives?
No, it was a science fiction novel. But the novel was set in England, and the one thing that I can say about it was that the people that I know from England who read it were astonished to find out that I was writing about a part of their country I'd never been to before. Because I was very selective about the specific things I would mention were very selectively chosen. Now, the reason I am a Stratford guy is because I believe there is one God and Bill Bryson is his prophet.
500 years from now, there's going to be a group of people performing a sketch called The Ministry of Silly Walks.
Yes.
And they're going to try to figure out who this brilliant person by the name of Monty Python was, who put all of this magical stuff
by the
together.
way,
more likely aliens.
By the way, which one's pink?
Excuse me?
He gets it. You're too young. Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Oh, okay.
One of the greatest albums ever made. One of. Not the.
I wasn't disagreeing with you.
No, I was just qualifying it for the listeners. So.
Oh, gotcha. In case you're making them irate with your CD choices right now.
Pink Floyd is the greatest band ever. And if you disagree with that, you're an idiot.
Right. Come meet us here and we'll take you down.
Yeah.
Wow. There's another one pissing off all the listeners now.
No,
we make everyone angry.
I'll tell you. So Pink Floyd The Wall represents my personal evolution. Because I remember when I first came out, I was very linear. I was like a budding military guy. And we don't need no education. We don't need no thought control. Oh, yes, you do.
Yep.
You need the government to control you and do what they say and do the Pledge of Allegiance and be a good citizen and so on. And then, of course, I spent many years in the service and probably believe that way. But then I left the service and I began to hang out with actors, artistic folks.
A bit different.
Yes.
Slightly different.
Not necessarily, marginally straight people.
Yeah.
People of all walks of life, race, creed, and color. And then suddenly I began to understand their angle.
Yeah.
And I'm more now on the side of, we don't need no thought control.
Yeah. I was in college and I remember because I still am an introvert, but I'm
no.
Well, but I'm a different
Surely not.
I'm a different kind of introvert now than I was when I started college. When I started college, I was the introvert that wasn't, it wasn't a good thing. Now I'm an introvert because I just don't like most people.
You hate everyone.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Which is amazing that you're here, Adam, because he hates most everybody. So
I do.
It's okay. But he hates us to a lesser degree than most.
Precisely.
And that's where I want to be.
Well, I'm a Capricorn. And something you have to understand about Capricorns is that being a Capricorn means once you're in, it's you know what, you mess with somebody who is in, I'm going to kill you. Yeah. And if I die in the process, that's fine. Because Capricorns, it's like, no, I'm not going to be your friend, but when I become your friend, it's for life.
See, I'm not a Capricorn, but I'm pretty much in the
What
same
are
boat.
you?
I'm Pisces.
You're Pisces.
Aries.
Ram.
Yeah.
Beatrice.
I'm the old goat.
That's right.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Pisces, fish.
Yeah, they drink a lot.
They do.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Oh, God. Can I go one day
No,
without
I'm doing it on purpose
about
now.
that
You have to know I'm doing it on purpose.
show.
I have yet to see one episode.
I've never seen an episode.
And one day I will watch it. You know, many people are urging me to do so.
Yeah.
But
I'm a contrarian. As soon as everyone says it's the greatest thing ever, I instinctively say,
Community. Nobody's tired of hearing about that.
hey, it was canceled 3 times.
I'm fully aware.
And once again, moments ago, I presented to you probably one of the worst films ever produced.
Oh my God.
Called Strike Zone, and you said, I must have it.
I
must watch
no,
it.
No, you can keep Game of Thrones. I'm watching Strike Zone.
We're watching that together.
Yeah.
That's going to be a future episode, listeners.
Because Game of Thrones, you know.
Because it turns out Adam's a movie star.
Well,
he is a movie
somebody
star.
famous in
Thanks
our
to
studio.
Jason.
Hey,
He
you're a
pushed me
movie
over
star
the top.
too.
Yes.
Oh, God, I suppose. Yeah. Okay.
You have a credit on IMDb.
I do. The one single credit I've got on IMDb. I don't have a picture on IMDb. I got to work on that.
That's going to change soon.
Yeah, we'll fix that. For those of you who think that the only reason I'm complimenting these 2 actors is because they're here with me and they may physically harm me.
I mean, you are in the corner of the room.
Yeah, I know. The rest of the cast. Let me just talk about some of the rest of the people here. The actress who plays Claudio, on day 1 of rehearsal, she was so scared, so nervous, because there was so much emotion later on. You know, Claudio early on, he's kind of a fluff character, but then he gets real damn serious.
You bet. Yeah.
Real quick.
Start slut shaming people. It's pretty intense.
Well, I mean, you know, you're when you realize that you have killed an innocent woman that you had promised to marry, you know, that's pretty deep. And I told her, I said, look, you're not going to get this on day 1. You're not going to get it on day 10. It's going to be a long time before you get this character. Mm-hmm. But you will get it. And she absolutely got it.
Oh, she nails it.
And the thing that impressed me the most is the scene with you when you, Adam, are, as Benedict, basically saying to Claudio, you killed an innocent woman, and I'm going to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And her performance there is so appropriate.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It is. It's nuanced. It's subtle. It's excellent. Our Don Pedro.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she's fantastic.
Oh, she's absolutely.
I love that person.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was told about Jessica Williams plays Don Pedro, and I was told about her early on. Whatever she does, she commits to. She commits to the character.
Oh, yeah.
And holy crap, I had no idea how much she committed to the character because she is Don Pedro.
She kills it.
Yeah.
They both do.
I mean, you know, her or Denzel, either one, I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know?
No, she's great.
They're equally talented.
I think this is going to sound like complete fluff and publicity.
Pandering, perhaps? The first employer of pandering? Troilus?
I love that. That is one of my favorite. There's so much that Benedict says that's so good, but I would take her over Denzel's performance.
Oh, snap!
Denzel does an amazing job playing Don Pedro very straight.
And you have to admit that Randy is light years ahead of Keanu Reeves' performance.
Oh my God!
From Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah.
I love it. You know, the cane and the look and the stern
he's
look
just so menacing.
And the beaded sweat on his forehead, probably from moving all the set pieces. But
he does
a lot of work.
Because he does. I mean, he does
a lot.
Oh, look, I mean, you know, look. One thing I've learned is about being director is I've got the easiest job in the whole troupe. Everyone else has a harder job than the director, you know. No, Randy Banfield, who plays Don John, you know, one of the things I said to him at one point during rehearsal, and this is the reason he has the limp and the cane, is I said, you know, we've got you playing Don John, but you look like a leading man.
Right.
And Don John, everything that you can say about him.
That's what my dad thought was playing Benedict, because he was really excited. He said, "Oh yeah, I really want to see this guy that you kiss in the show." And what?
Then he was disappointed.
He was like,
he got over.
He was like, he's got that big beard, right? I was like, no, that's Randy. That's a completely different person, actually. But you'll see. So.
Everybody.
Oh no! Like my mom will not stop talking about how talented you are, Adam. She was like, "Oh yeah."
Oh no, my wife. I mean, that was my wife. You know, basically, she said, "Whatever you do in the future, make sure that guy's involved."
Yep.
You know.
Well, I want to stay a part of this team. I'm really enjoying working with both of you.
You're all right.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll keep you.
Take me, please. Please.
All right.
That's kind of what you were hoping Beatrice would say in the church.
By this day, I take you for pity.
But Randy's performance as Don John, though, I said to him, I said, "We've got you here, but you look like a leading man."
He does.
And I said, we have to do something about that, because the one thing Don John shouldn't be is a leading man. And he came up with all that.
Yeah, he made it work.
He just invented this whole character.
Well, and I think this show is filled with a lot of examples of that, because Much Ado About Nothing is technically about Hero and Claudio.
Technically, yeah.
Hero is Leonardo's good daughter who does what he tells her to.
Yeah, it's the through line.
But it's about Hero and Claudio. But then Beatrice and Benedict come along and just upheave everything with their own drama. And meanwhile,
because that's what they do. And you've got Hero and Claudio who are going through this life and death thing.
Yes.
And Benedict and Beatrice somehow manage to make everything about them.
Yes. They're very dramatic people. And then you have Don John, who, even in the Kenneth Branagh version, like, and it's not just because it's Keanu Reeves. Anytime I see a Don John, he doesn't really stand out that much to me. I know who he is. I know what he's trying to accomplish. But Randy turns him into
a villain.
A villain. Yeah.
A real villain.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't know how it's
character
just,
you love to hate.
Exactly. Everything about Randy's performance is awesome as Don John. But yeah, because we're running around sniping at each other and ruining weddings and just all this other nonsense. But
making it all absolutely about yourself.
I mean,
well, narcissism is
it runs deep.
Our core being.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, because you talk about the ways that you can play the character. In the Royal Shakespeare Company, the production with David Tennant and Catherine Tate, Elliot Levy plays Don John.
Okay. And
he plays him in such a different way, because he's a smarmy, small, bitter character.
A rat-like character.
And I love, there's a part in that production where a kid who I think ends up sort of being, the boy character, which we actually cut that whole part.
Yeah, we didn't have that going on.
But he goes up to Don John and he holds up a Rubik's Cube, like, "Hey, you want this?" And Don John takes a pack of cigarettes out and holds it out to the kid, and the kid takes a cigarette. And I went, that's Don John. Yeah. That's brilliant. Whoever came up with that. If you haven't seen the David Tennant, Catherine Tate, Much Ado, it's come on, it's David Tennant and Catherine Tate.
I mean, what? Yeah. That's really all the explanation you need.
It could be the David Tennant, Catherine Tate Colgate commercial.
Watch it. My liege, yeah. my liege. Is this a Bovary face?
Yeah.
Are you Lauren Cooper by any chance?
Yay, Mary, am I bothered?
Did she do it in Cockney or what?
Oh, no, that's from the Catherine Tate show, where she plays this insolent student at a school, and David Tennant comes in, and he's the substitute for the day, and she's giving him some pushback on his accent.
Are you the doctor?
And he's like, they're talking about Shakespeare. Yeah. And he goes, "All right, we're going to be talking about the bird today." And she was like, "Excuse me, sir, I can't understand a word you're saying, sir." And he's like, "All right, let's settle down." And she goes, "No, but I can't understand your accent, sir. Are you English, sir?" And he goes, "No, I'm Scottish." And she was like, "Well, I can understand your accent, sir." And he's like, I'm not English, but I do speak it. And like, it's really funny. I'll show it to you later.
Do you fancy Billy Piper, sir?
Do you fancy Billy Piper, sir? And she just schools him and busts out a sonnet. It's great.
Oh, Catherine Tate's great.
Yeah. Oh man.
And David Tennant's great too. The greatest Scottish actor since Lemmy.
I'll go with that.
Yeah. No, Lemmy's awesome.
Lemmy Bruce?
No. They're
The comedian?
There's a parallel there, but we won't go there. With Benedict and Beatrice at the end, and this is, I think, one of the things that I am so curious about. I wish I could sit with Shakespeare and ask him the question. So after the play's over, what?
I'd love to know what
do you?
How many children?
Yeah, Mr. Shakespeare.
Yeah. Mr. Shakespeare.
Mr. Shakespeare.
My liege.
Yeah. What does the future have in store for these characters? We know Claudio and Hero are going to go off, and they're going to have 1,000 babies, and she's going to get fat, and
she's the wilting flower.
Yeah,
she's going to do what she's supposed to do. I don't. It'd be kind of a funny comedy to see their married life together, because we know they're aiming to get married. It's very straight to the moon, Alice kind of a situation. So I'd be really interested to see a comedy about that.
Well, sometimes I would wonder, I don't know what the age of Beatrice would be, but sometimes in those periods, if they were a little bit older, they wouldn't have children.
Right.
I'd like to think of them as being that really cool couple.
That's what I'm thinking. I think they would have a very, very sultry sex life. They'd be very kinky. They'd love to wear costumes and things like that.
Oh my God.
Perhaps
goodness.
You be the badger tonight. I'll be the beaver.
I don't know what. I mean, in Elizabeth.
Never mind.
In Elizabethan England. Oh, let's be kinky. Let's unbutton your top button.
Let me see your ankles.
Your ankles.
Is that a bead of sweat in your cleavage? But no, I think they would be that cool couple that everyone loved. They'd throw great parties. They'd be yapping at each other occasionally. They'd be in love, and then they would yap a little bit, and everyone would just love.
Oh, they would constantly snipe at each other.
At it.
They're totally the couple that after that point would just be putting on a show for others by sniping at each other.
I think,
but then when they're alone, I think they'd be very sweet together.
I'd like to think that they're the couple that other people who have problems
would go to. Yes.
Yeah, and they would say, "Look,
who actually have time to help them because they're not dealing with their children and their own drama. Yeah. It's just us dealing with each other."
Yeah, I actually, I mean, if it was 2019, they'd probably collaborate on a book. And
they'd be one of those almost artistic couples.
Yeah, they'd be one of those couples that makes a movie.
Well,
Beatrice and Benedict.
The title of the book would be "If the Two of Us
Awkward Love Scene Productions."
If the two of us can make it work, so can you.
Yes.
They would
self-help.
Yeah, exactly.
Benedict and Beatrice doing their TED talk on relationships. Yeah,
you got to stop that back talk early, ladies. I'm telling you, I could so see her saying something like that.
Oh yeah, she would slap him around.
Metaphorically, anyway.
No, I mean literally.
Well, I guess if he's into that, sure, but
probably so. Most of us are.
Well, if he's talking about costumes over here, maybe. But
Bilderbergers. Anyway,
that one went past me. I got to tell you, that one.
Bilderbergers, don't they dress up in costumes and do all kinds of weird, kinky things because they're just so rich they just can't?
No, that's the.
It's like Eyes Wide Shut kind of thing.
Yeah, or Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah. I don't know.
Our Claudio
which
is
hotel
a
did
dead...
you say in Alpharetta where they?
I'm not going to say which one it is.
That's probably wise. But yeah, there's some.
I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. It's the hotel.
$20 to get in. Isn't it?
It's the hotel that is down by. It's near the Waffle House, not that Waffle House. The Waffle House by the mall. That apparently one night a month is a swingers party.
Oh.
Interesting.
That's the word on the street, anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the person who told me this claimed to have been there several times.
I still have a press badge. We could figure this out.
Holy shit! I want to so bad. Oh my God.
Can we all be a part of
I would love nothing
team?
better than to show up with a hidden camera.
I need somebody with a camera who could take pictures. I've got to have a team.
Well, one
of you can be my editor and the other can be the photographer.
I'm so down with that. Look,
I'll hold your microphone, baby.
All right.
I think that given the fact that we've discussed the future of Benedict and Beatrice after the play, it's safe to say that we've covered pretty much everything in the play that we're going to cover tonight.
Before, during, and after.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to add as far as anything you want to say about Much Ado About Nothing? And no, the answer is.
Yes, I think we've overturned every stone. Talked about almost everything we can.
I think so.
We don't want to lose our audience. We just want them to come see the show. Why don't you
come see the show?
Tell them when the show airs.
We are going to be performing. Well,
do we have a location?
That's the problem. Is the venue is still.
How about what website to go to?
Go to
the latest and greatest news.
Go to Act 1, the number 1, act1theater.com. Or just do a Google search for Act 1 Alpharetta. You'll find it. And it will have the up-to-date showtimes and locations. And there is a reason why the location is a bit of a question mark. We had originally intended for all this to be done at the park.
Yes, at Will's Park.
Yeah, as part of a Shakespeare in the Park.
Which may well still happen.
Which may well. But the reality is that we live in Georgia. It's May. The weather is not on our side at all.
If you believe Bill Nye, the world's on fire.
Bill Nye. I used to like Bill Nye. Now he's up
too hysterical.
Yeah, he's up his own ass.
Yeah,
he's Bill. You're not Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. deGrasse Tyson's on.
Well, before we go, I do want the very first director to hire me for my very first Shakespearean production. It was Taming of the Shrew. I played Tranio. It was Pam Riley, and I just wanted to give a shout out to her. She inspired me to continue down the path of Shakespeare, and I'll never forget, because I was a naval officer at the time. I had no experience in acting, and I remember showing up for a rehearsal, and I was like, where is everybody? She's like, no, this rehearsal is dedicated to you, to train you on how to be a Shakespearean actor.
Shit.
And she devoted a whole I was just terrified. But she kicked my butt and helped me to go down this crazy acting road, and I'm very thankful for her for that.
Oh, that's nice.
That is very nice. And it's an interesting thing to look back on the people who had
inspired
an impact.
You.
Yeah,
made you pivot.
Yeah,
a direction.
Pivot.
Because at a certain point, in your life, you had no clue that you would. I'm guessing that if I had told the 20-year-old you
that you wind up in this studio,
that you were going to be
weirdos.
sitting here talking about a Shakespearean play that you're starring in,
no,
you would have said no, that's nonsense.
What have you been smoking, my friend? And it is not something soft.
Yeah, well, and
it's hard.
And that is the thing about Shakespeare. Life is ultimately this series of strange events that the players cannot notice as being connected and driven by a theme. But if you step back, you realize there's something going on. There's a plan there. There's whatever you want to call it, kismet, destiny, karma,
divine
whatever.
Intervention.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
But there's something there. And here we all are. And isn't that absolutely wonderful? And let me say, as the director of this performance of Much Ado About Nothing, it has been an absolute treat to work with the actors and actresses that I've worked with. And I really do hope that if you come to the show, if you don't live near here and you can't come see the show, go to theateralpharetta.com, watch it. I really think you're going to be impressed by the performances that these people put on. It's really something else. And you know what? It's Shakespeare. And if you don't love Shakespeare, go read it again, because you missed something.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think on that note, it's an appropriate time to end. I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode, a very unique episode of Hindsight is Horrifying. Certain themes were consistent.
Was there any through line? I guess Much Ado was a through line.
Yeah, it was.
This one.
We sort of talked about it, I guess.
Thank you all very much for spending your daytime, your nighttime, your drive time, or whatever time it was with us. And we look forward to meeting you again very, very soon. I'm Jason Mitchell signing off, and I've got my co-hosts, plural,
Darth, Jader,
and Adam.
Until next time, good night.